enjoyed roller coasters? If the answer is yes, you will definitely have enjoyed this latest episode of Monday Night Raw, because sometimes it was up and sometimes it was down, which is very good for me, because my name is Simon Miller. You are watching WhatCulture Wrestling, and this is the show known of ups and downs. That's where I take this. It's called the finger of power. It's really important. Everyone takes it seriously. And when I see a good bit, I go up, and when I see a bad bit, I go down, and then you moan in the comments. Very, very comforting. Given that it is Tuesday though, we also have to put out the poll for retro ups and downs, which you can check out right now in the community feed here on YouTube. And the 4 shows that you've selected for the poll are WCW Sold Out or NWO Sold Out, Because You Hate Me, WrestleMania 23, that ties in Vince McMahon versus Donald Trump, WrestleMania 3, which would be quite fun, and Survivor Series 1990, which is when The Undertaker made his flipping debut in WWE, WWF. But let's not worry about that, and let's worry about the present or the past, whatever the hell you want to call it, and let's up those downs for Monday Night Raw. Randy Orton is having a tough time, isn't he? He was out here to kick things off, and he was all like, I understand, I get it. I've got Drew McIntyre on my back, I've got The Miz on my back, I've got The Fiend on my back, I've got Roman Reigns on my back, I've got my friend Steve on my back, I've got your Auntie Joan on my back, my dog McNugget. He has to worry about everybody just because he's now the WWE champion. Orton kept this simple too, and he was like, I am better than everybody, and I'm definitely better than that moron Drew McIntyre. It did sound a little bit like a kid walking around the playground going, my PS5 is better than your PS5, but he knows how pro wrestling works, so he said, look, who's ever gonna jump me, just come out right now. But he didn't get that. Instead, he got Alexa Bliss. She's off the rails now, as we know, and even though Randy tried to get some answers out of her, she just lifted up her gloves, and one says play, and the other says pain. She then took the one down to her side that said play on it, and Randy Orton looked really disappointed, because I guess he wanted a game of tennis. The lights then went red, and we got those weird Fiend noises like rah, rah, but we didn't get Bray Wyatt, and instead we got Drew McIntyre, who did just kick the ship out of Randy Orton. But I was a bit like, wait a minute, does that mean Bray Wyatt and Drew McIntyre were backstage and Bray was all like, oh, I know what we could do, we'll muck around the lights, but then you can go out instead? So otherwise, it means Drew McIntyre now has Fiend powers. This is where things did get really fun though, because obviously Orton had been Claymore kicked by Drew McIntyre, so the Miz and Morrison were like, well, we could take advantage of that, and they ran down to cash in their briefcase, and they were this close before Drew turned around and went, nah, I have to be the guy to take the title off Orton. So he Claymore kicked these assholes too. Afterwards, Miz was super pissed off, so he and Morrison challenged Drew McIntyre in the main event to a handicap match. And yeah, I tell you, it went a little bit left, it went a little bit right. It didn't really go down, but it certainly gets it up. That's the worst way I've ever done it, but still up. And then it was Jeff Hardy versus Elias with a guitar on a pole match. Now, if you don't know, there have been a lot of on a pole matches throughout the years in wrestling. I mean, we've had rats, we've had Viagra, we've had jackets, we even had Judy Bagwell, who took it one step further and attached herself to a forklift. But that is the problem with this stipulation. I can't take it serious anymore because it has been run into the ground. It is well too dumb. Because of all that, is getting it down. Otherwise, it was fine. It was standard stuff. Elias was going to play a song beforehand, doo-doo-doo, and Jeff Hardy came out and stopped him, and then they started to fight, and Jeff Hardy was going to get the guitar at one point, but Elias threw a stool at him. I'm not going to lie, that was very funny, but eventually it was the Hardy boy who was to get the instrument. He hit Elias, it didn't break, which also made me chuckle, and then he just won. And then he was so mad that the guitar didn't break, he smashed it into a million smithereens. And I have to assume now that this is over. It's done. It won't be because it's WWE. They'll come up with some crazy concoction about why it needs to continue, but it was okay. But I stand by what I said. It was then Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax taking on Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke in a tag team title match. What the flub have those two done to deserve this? It doesn't make any sense. It just comes out of nowhere. But don't worry, I went and found the justification. It was me. I did it, the wizard in the sky, always making sense of decisions in WWE that actually have no logic. Because I have all the powers, I go Alakabiba, and I just make things go down. Now, why did I put this tag team match together? Yes, hello Vince, it's Wizard in the Sky. Why did we put this team together? Oh, right, yes. Oh, of course, yes, thanks. Because I don't care about the women's tag team division, so I just make it up as I go along. Halabalima! Wizard in the sky. Also, aren't they all meant to be getting ready to be on the same page as Survivor Series? It didn't even go 4 minutes down. Lana was also watching all of this from ringside, and because of that, Shayna Baszler was just so distracted. Like, anytime she did a move, she couldn't stop looking at the former Ravishing Russian. And at one point, she had the match won, but of course Lana got up onto the apron. Shayna was like, well, I better go focus on you. Also, I don't know what Lana was doing here. From said apron, she just pointed around going, rah, oh God, rah. It was like she had seen a ghost. This just made everybody look so dumb, and during all of that, Dana Brooke tried to use the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up. She wasn't able to do it, so Baszler just re-locked on the Kirifuda clutch, and this time the challengers tapped out. What a waste of life and time that was. It was like running around in a circle and then being confused that you didn't get to your destination. At the end too, the tag champions just looked at Lana. I guess we were going to find out more about that later. And I get it, it's dissension in the ranks as we do build to the pay-per-view, but it's stupid. All of it's stupid, especially because now, who is actually a legitimate threat to Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler? WWE has had them run through every single flipping team. Orton was there being interviewed in the back, and he said he better remind Drew McIntyre who the hunter is, and a hunter that hunts using the RKO. It was a really weird thing to say. I didn't really get what happened. It's becoming a phrase of mine here on Ups and Downs, but it's true, especially for Raw. But if WWE has just run out of ideas with the 24/7 championship, you can just retire it. Everybody will understand. As always, I'm going to give a salute to R-Truth because he's so damn entertaining. But I didn't really understand why we did any of this, so let's get him down. And that's because Truth just got killed by Bobby Lashley, and I mean almost literally. Now, he was very entertaining to start with because he was like, look, Bob, they were going to have a match. I know that I'm the 24/7 champion and you're the US champion, but none of our belts are on the line, so I'm just going to lay down, you can pin me, and no one needs to get hurt. Bobby, being the moron that he is, went to do that. Truth kicked him, but that just pissed off the big man. And again, he brutalized R-Truth and eventually made him pass out with the hurt lock, or whatever the hell they're calling it now. Given this had happened, Drew Gulak decided, well, this will be a great time to try and become 24/7 champion, but you don't enter Bobby Lashley's space if he hasn't invited you. So then Drew Gulak got wrecked as well. And do you know what Bob did? After he was basically this dead physique, he threw him onto R-Truth, and the referee counted 1, 2, 3, because that's the 24/7 title rules. So your new 24/7 champion by, well, not even accident, but by whatever you want to call this, is Drew Gulak. Utterly confusing. Lucha House Party then got scared of AJ Styles because, of course, now he has a really, really, really tall friend. We have just completely forgotten about the dissension in the Lucha House Party ranks, but I really like AJ Styles' character. He's very funny. Following that, Nia Jax told Lana that unless she leaves WWE or Raw forever, she's going to end her career. I was like, my word, the escalation here. You need to calm down, Nia Jax. That's like a fly buzzing around my head, bzz, bzz, and I get a machine gun out and I kill it. But apparently they're going to have a match later. Don't worry, nothing that big happens. Then AJ Styles was here. Up. He was in asshole mode straight away, and even though he put over everybody in the Raw Survivor Series team, he had discovered a way to make it absolutely sure that they do win at the pay-per-view, and that, of course, is if they make AJ Styles El Capitan. Styles was so proud of this idea, you would think he took all week trying to come up with it. He just has the best character, and then he told Keith Lee and Sheamus, the other members of Team Raw, to come out here. And as soon as they did, he was like, look, we got to dominate, we got to win, and I don't care who is on the other side of that ring. It can be Kevin Owens, it could be Sami Zayn, it could be Rey Mysterio, it could be Dominic Mysterio, it could even be Angie Mysterio. We have to do whatever we have to do. So this is AJ Styles saying he is so desperate to win at Survivor Series, he's going to beat up Rey Mysterio's wife. AJ Styles is a crazy person. Keith Lee didn't agree with any of this because of course he didn't, and neither did Sheamus, who went back to the old rhetoric of, hey, when you were in the minor leagues, terrible accent, when you were in the minor leagues, I was winning all the championships here in WWE. We need to drop that. We need to stop saying it because AJ Styles is so good now, it makes WWE look dumb. You're like, well, why the hell didn't you hire him sooner? Somebody was always going to interrupt, and in this case, it was Braun Strowman who came to the ring wearing that new gear that makes it look like he's just been gardening. And this guy, he just shouts and screams all the time. Imagine trying to have a conversation with him. Be like, oh, hey, Braun, how you doing? Be like, I'm really well, how are you? And you're like, I can't talk to you anymore. Anywho, he thinks that he should be on the team and everybody else was fine with that as long as he goes into a qualifying match, because if they all had to do it, he needs to do it too. Then out came Adam Pearce and he tried to calm it all down, but he wasn't very good at it. It all ended with Keith Lee saying that he would fight Braun Strowman, and then Sheamus was like, no, you're inexperienced, I'll do it. And of course this ended in a triple threat match. It's going to be Braun Strowman versus Keith Lee versus Sheamus, and if Braun can somehow win, he shall officially be on Team Raw at Survivor Series. And then we had that match. Now I will say there are some issues here when it comes to logic, but it was very fun, and AJ Styles on commentary was an absolute gem. Because AJ played this exactly like he should have done. Because he now thinks he is the captain, he is terrified of all the crazy things these three were doing to each other. When they were using the steel steps, he was like, oh man, don't use the steel stairs. Would somebody please just win with a roll up and get this over and done with? AJ Styles gets round applause. Otherwise, you could telegraph the winner here from a mile away, and my only worry is I don't think WWE sees Keith Lee how I see Keith Lee. Like, to me, he should be winning everything, he should be crushing fools and going after the World Championship. But once again, he kind of looked a little bit like a goof. I mean, there was a great spot when Sheamus and Braun were fighting on the top rope, so he just went over there and chucked them both off. But we need to talk about the finish, because Sheamus bro-kicked Keith Lee as if to suggest that the Irishman was going to win. Then, of course, Braun Strowman came from nowhere. He gave Sheamus the running power slam. 1, 2, 3. He's going to be on Team Raw. But if you're one of these wrestling nerds, i.e. me, who sits back and takes in everything in context, you're like, well, Keith Lee, he was going to lose again. It happens all the time. There was some enjoyable aftermath to this too, because AJ Styles was in the ring. He was like, hey guys, now we can all be friends. And Sheamus didn't want to be friends until he hugged Braun Strowman. But that was just a ruse, because he bro-kicked him right in the face. Not gonna lie, it really made me chuckle. I quite like Sheamus. This caused Keith Lee to hurl the Irish curse out the ring as AJ Styles basically facepalmed like, man, I'm trying to be the mum and the dad here and I can't keep it together. So it all was a little bit goofy, but I was sports entertained. Angel Garza then offered a special rose to all the ladies in the WWE universe. I don't want to get too crude here on ups and downs, but if he had just started thrusting at the camera, well, it would have been kind of the same. We also saw a clip of The Undertaker being on the Jimmy Fallon show and he tombstoned a scarecrow or something like that, and it does seem like he's going to be at Survivor Series, which is very nice because it's 30 years of the dead man, and given what we were talking about a second ago, what the hell happened to Andrade? Do you remember him and Angel Garza were feuding? No, you don't. Had an interview with Drew McIntyre as well. He's going to win his belt back before Survivor Series so he can take on Roman Reigns, and he told The Fiend to stay out of his business. And I'm sure a crazy man that runs around with the mask and acts like a serial killer is definitely going to listen to you, Drew. Also later, he's going to beat up the Miz and John Morrison. Probably will. The Firefly Fun House followed. I always like these. Up. Abby the Witch basically kicked things off because as Alexa Bliss and Bray Wyatt were talking about Randy Orton, Abby was basically like, you know what? F that guy. And she actually said the word, and because she had sworn, she now had to put 10 cents in the swear jar. But she didn't care about that. She then called him a piece of shit or something like that. So now it was 25 cents. Oh, Abby the Witch, you such a card. Then things got so weird because after Bray had remembered all the crazy stuff that Randy Orton had done to him in the past and was all like, oh, here he comes, I'm going to get him, Alexa Bliss said she needed some help. So he took his hurt heel glove, I think it was the heel one, and he put it on Alexa Bliss's skull, and when it got removed, she had white eyes and blood came out of her mouth. Like, if you let your kids watch this, you probably would be a bad parent. He even then got somewhat of a punchline because Wyatt looked into the camera and went, oh shit. But the word got bleeped because, you know, this was all about swearing. I was kind of, oh man. These two, they really flubbed up. But that's why I like it. It's almost like you took a segment from a completely different show and just pasted it into Raw. And then we were getting Lana versus Nia Jax. Now, I didn't realize when Nia was going on about this earlier, she meant tonight, but she did, and it's getting it down. There was also an inset promo from Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce, who are now just a team, so why the hell we broke up the Iconics, I don't know. But they were over the moon, because they were like, ha, Lana's gonna retire, and then we can be on Team Survivor Series. So I was like, so what happened here? They heard Nia Jax cut the promo, and then ran into some room to cut this interview. It doesn't connect the dots. And this was absolutely pointless as well because Nia Jax just ruined Lana here to the point I think she had the match won at least 7 times, but she just kept picking Lana's shoulders off the mat. And then when Lana wouldn't quit, she hit the Samoan drop and she beat her anyway. Surprise, surprise, they then put Lana through the table for the 7th week in a row, and it's gone back to being not funny. Also, in case you're interested, the rumor is that this is WWE's attempt at turning Lana babyface. It is not working. The Hurt Business were then laughing at R-Truth in the back because he was limping after he got beat up earlier, and I realized it's time to bring it back. Roll it. Hello, my name is Simon Miller, this is Petey the Penguin, and it's time to ask that question this week. Are the Hurt Business good guys or bad guys? We have our Wheel of Fortune here, we'll spin it, round and round it goes, where it stops, nobody knows. Oh, no, it has stopped this week. No, Hurt Business, they're bad guys. We'll see what happens on next week's Raw. This was leading into this week's VIP lounge though, and while that last question is still pertinent, this was really good. The Hurt Business felt like they'd done their job with Retribution, given that they just beat them up for weeks, and now they want payment, and that payment needs to come in the form of the tag team titles. And given that they had said that, out came the New Day, because they took exception to it, given that they are the tag team champions. And these two are just great. Xavier Woods jumped on the fact that MVP had said, your time is up, going, our time is up. Bobby Lashley, I used to get in trouble staying up to watch your matches because I was in 6th grade. And then Kofi Kingston said, MVP, you're really good. Shelton Benjamin, you're really good. And Cedric Alexander, well, you're kind of just there. These were awesome shots they were firing. Kofi continued by saying he alone had won more titles than all of them, and he had been WWE champion, the one big belt that Bobby Lashley wants, but he's never been able to get. Then MVP fired back, well, that's great, but you lost it to Brock Lesnar in 8 seconds, to which Kofi said, well, 8 seconds, that's interesting, because from what I hear, that's how long Lana said Bobby Lashley used to last. And that's a sex joke. They were talking about those two banging. I mean, they didn't follow it up like I did. I just got excited. I was enjoying the barbs. This carried on as well until we did get a non-title tag match between Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander taking on the New Day. And if you can believe it, the Hurt Business won. But it's getting an up. It was just a really good match, and finally it actually made sense. I mean, the Hurt Business have beaten everybody they've taken on, and yeah, way back in the day, like 47 years ago, they did make some deal with Adam Pearce, so maybe this is the fallout. It was shenanigan-free as well, which I always appreciate in an overly shenanigan WWE world, because Cedric Alexander hit the neuralizer, Shelton Benjamin hit the pay dirt, Xavier Woods went down, 1, 2, 3, and we now have justifiable #1 contenders in Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander, two dudes that I'm always happy to see being used. I liked all of this, and I want to see what's going to happen next. Nikki Cross then tracked down Alexa Bliss, and thank Flub for that, because there was a time 7 days ago where I was like, WWE has just forgotten that Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss were friends for around about 147 years. Cross found her and she was all like, oh, Alexa, you're bad now, you need to stop listening to the Fiend. And given that when she did turn around, she still had that crazy face from earlier, Nikki was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go. You do you, I'm really, really sorry. And then do not tell me that WWE just didn't wake up on the morning of the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view and go, do you know what we can do? We can turn Tucker heel. What the hell was this? Down. And why? Because it was Ricochet versus Tucker here, and Tucker was just in the ring. He's been given really bland gear, he didn't have an entrance. At first, I didn't even realize it was Tucky Tuck Tuck, and within 59 seconds, Ricochet had hit the recall and just beat him. What was the point of that? The Retribution aftermath, though, was a lot better. Up. Now, a huge reason for this is Mustafa Ali, who came out before this match, but here's the two things that you need to do. One, you need to go and look at the promo he cut on social media where he justifies the entire premise behind Retribution, and two, you need to go watch him on Raw Talk where he also completely justifies everything that he did here. Mustafa Ali is on fire. Here, though, the group did just ruin both Tucker and Ricochet. I mean, they really kicked their ass. But yeah, the reason they did this is because Mustafa Ali, he was the hacker, and he was trying to help Otis out way back when, you know, Dolph Ziggler was trying to get in between him and Mandy Rose. And given that Tucker had screwed him too, he was like, ha ha, well, now I'm gonna get you. As for Ricochet, I presume that's just going to be the next program. And as sad as it is to say, the reason I am all right with this is because I really just want Retribution and Ricochet to be used in any kind of a fashion. Look, maybe Ricochet joins the group. wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. It was then our main event, which was the handicap match between Miz and Morrison and Drew McIntyre, and yet beforehand, we had a little chat between Drew and Sheamus of all people, and Sheamus was like, oh fella, you should be able to join Team Raw, because we used to be a tag team back in the day, and that was way back when. Drew was like, no, I don't know why they're both Scottish. Drew was like, no, I think I'm gonna focus on the WWE title instead. So you just know, one, that's not gonna happen, and two, Sheamus at some point gonna whoop Drew McIntyre's ass. Either way, all of it up. This was far more competitive than I was expecting, and really it was just a showcase for Drew McIntyre, because he did win, and now not only has he beaten Mr. Money in the Bank by himself, but he's also beaten Mr. Money in the Bank and his mate. So even though he did lose the WWE title, Drew McIntyre's still a main event star. There was also a crazy flip dive by Drew, and let's never take that for granted, because the guy's like 9'2" tall, and he's still doing stuff like this. And after he did Claymore the Miz, he got the 1, 2, 3. But that made me go, because he didn't pin John Morrison, and I like to think there's something in it. Of course, as soon as he was done, Randy Orton flew out of nowhere and hit the RKO, and just to give you a little spice on your sizzle steak, it ended with The Fiend going, ha 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 ha, and doing that scary laugh that he does. And I really do like this. I saw some people moaning about it on Twitter going, it's such a mess. It's not a mess. I'm loving the multiple storylines because it means WWE can go in multiple directions. Because like right now, you've got something with Drew and Sheamus, you've got Drew and Randy Orton, you've got potentially Drew and Roman Reigns, you've got Randy Orton and Roman Reigns, and then there's The Fiend just hanging back doing what The Fiend does. I actually think it's quite well constructed. So even though it was quite a familiar ending to the show, overall, I did leave with good feelings. Don't get me wrong, there was a lot of crap on this, but overall, the good things were good enough in the sense that I can give it up. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's episode of Raw. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Head over to WhatCulture.com where you can read yourself some articles. Follow WhatCulture on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE, and not only watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling, but go and vote in that retro ups and downs poll. You have the power, because you are He-Man. My name is Simon from WhatCulture, and do not forget the schedule for Ups and Downs this week. Tomorrow, Ups and Downs for Impact. Thursday, Ups and Downs for AEW. Friday, Retro Ups and Downs. And then obviously over the weekend, we have Ups and Downs for AEW Full Gear. What a few days it's going to be.